Othello, death in federal custody of perhaps the most prominent defendant in the nation that some today are calling suspicious. Robert Bianchi, criminal defense attorney, former head prosecutor of Morris County, New Jersey, assistant prosecutor of Hudson County. Bob, how could this happen? You're in a special unit which is segregated from other people, obviously monitored and watched, and yet he still is able to apparently kill himself.
Even the attorney general is saying, I'm outraged over this for the very factors that you're mentioning. Not to mention that there was an incident that happened a couple of weeks before that was suspicious. We had marks around his neck. He was found in a fetal position in his cell. It was believed that he tried to commit suicide then. So why he was put into a special unit, potentially, if we're learning the reporting is correct, taking off suicide watch, when all this trove of documents came out the day before, and there are so many other nefarious reasons that people could try to take him out. That is a correctional person in the Bureau of Prisons. I want to make sure he's monitored 24/7 so we don't have to get into the conspiracy theory piece that somebody else did it, or that this was
that's already out there. All you have to do is take a look at it, and there are conspiracy theories about this all over the place. That was he set up to commit suicide? Was he taken off suicide watch for someone then knowing that he would commit suicide? Look, it linked to some of those prominent names in the country, running this huge, some type of alleged scheme, a conspiracy accused of sex trafficking with minors that may have ensnared some very big names through the years. Do you find this suspicious, or do you find this incompetence, or something else?
It's either going to be suspicious or incompetent. Okay, so you hit the two areas there, but what really offends me is that this may be incompetence and it may be a suicide, but these victims have been victimized twice now by the federal government. They were victimized by U.S. Attorney Acosta in Florida with that agreement that, to anybody who came out of baby prosecutor school knows, was a corrupt deal to the core, and so they didn't get justice there. Now they finally have an opportunity in the Southern District to get some justice, and whether it's out of some nefarious reason or just sheer negligence, they've now been deprived of confronting their person in court to say, you did this to me and I want you to pay. And that's a sad thing that the victims don't get that opportunity.
Could someone have been paid off?
Listen, anything's possible, Eric. I mean, jails, listen, I've been around the block. Yeah. I've also done a lot of civil rights work against jails and some things that go inside of jails. I don't want to cast any aspersions. The Inspector General will look into the administrative aspects of this to see if the policies and procedures were followed properly. But, people have lots of money and lots of interest. And that would concern me as a prosecutor if I were investigating this case. It could be made to look like a suicide when it was something else. And I've handled cases like that.
Well, you have?
Yes.
What do they look like a suicide and they're not?
Oh, they set the cases up to make it look like a suicide.
In jail?
In jails, as I've had a couple in jail and outside of jail. And what I would always say to my staff is, until you can prove otherwise, any unattended death is a murder case. It's a murder case until you prove otherwise.
Should this be treated as a murder case?
I would, look, if I were investigating this case, this would be a homicide case, and I would say to my staff, until you can go in there and you can prove to me, I don't care if there's a note or whatever, when you come to the satisfactory conclusion that this was not a murder, but rather a suicide, fine. Because what happens is people jump to the conclusions. I was kind of shocked. Tunnel vision. They go right into, oh, it's a suicide. I've been there. I've been at the crime scenes. I've watched this happen. And then despite every other piece of evidence to the contrary, they are locked and loaded into that tunnel vision that that's what the investigation is. I hope the FBI and the Inspector General will do better.
6 o'clock, 6:30 in the morning. Could he have been studying the guard? The guards take a coffee break. Maybe he's watching television, leaves, and that's the moment he sees it happening every morning at 6:15 in the morning. Someone leaves, and that's his shot to take a sheet.
Listen, absolutely. Could the guy be plotting and planning? Is he sophisticated and smart enough to figure all that out? Yes. The thing I just don't like about it is if it were me, and again, I don't run the world, if a guy had previously tried to commit suicide, if there was something funny about it, he's one of those highest profile cases in the United States of America, one of the biggest sex offender rapists of children that we've ever had in this country. He escaped justice under U.S. Attorney Acosta. If he was now in my charge at the Manhattan Correctional Institution or now in the Southern District, I'm going to make sure there's a camera on that guy or there's eyes on that guy 24/7.
And linked to some of the biggest names in the world.
Of course.
Society, in New York City society and elsewhere. A conspiracy means other people, and that's his charge, and there are unnamed other people. Finally, it's not just the egregious sexual allegations against him dealing with minors, but it's also financial issues. Here's what Professor Tom Volso of the College of Staten Island here in New York has written. He's writing a book about Jeffrey Epstein. He says this, quote, I think he's engaged in blackmail. The reason I think that is that I read the Palm Beach police report. When they did the search warrant, Epstein had advance warning they were coming, so he scrubbed the place as much as he could. But he left wires and audiovisual cables for uploading video files to computers. And some of his victims, like Virginia Roberts, in her court filing said that Epstein remarked to her that, quote, information is king, and mentioned that Bill Clinton was there because, quote, he owes me a favor. He bragged that's how powerful he was, so I suspect, based on the evidence, that it's likely, since that's the way Epstein operates, is he uses information to his advantage. Was he running a blackmail operation that may have ensnared major figures on that island in the Caribbean with that cockamamie dome thing that he had?
It wouldn't be unusual for people to have a blackmail stockpile, if you will, so that if they get jammed up or they get into trouble, it's a get-out-of-jail-free card. But to make the connection that those individuals were actually involved in the various activities that he was involved in, I think is a really, really damaging place to be at this point in time, because we could all be associated with somebody and have no idea they're doing the things that they're doing. And then these people are running in big circles and a lot of money going on. And so I'm careful and before I start pointing the accusatory finger unless there's solid evidence to indicate that they were. They could have blackmail for all sorts of other reasons. It could just be an infidelity with a woman in age of consent. Who knows?
Yeah. And President Clinton and others have denied any wrongdoing or knowledge of the allegations that were and have been against Mr. Epstein. Bob, thank you. The investigation is just beginning.
Thank you, Eric.
Thank you for your insight.